Welcome back, future criminologists. In this video, I will be discussing what is due process, the due process clause, procedural and substantive due process. What is due process? Due process balances the power of law of the land and protects the individual person from it. When a government harms a person without following the exact course of the law, this constitutes a due process violation, which offends the rule of law. According to the Supreme Court, due process means there shall be a law prescribed in harmony with the general powers of the legislature, that the law shall be reasonable in its operation, that the law shall be enforced according to the regular methods of procedure prescribed, and that the law shall be applicable alike to all citizens of the state or to all of a class. Due Process Clause. The Due Process Clause of the Philippines is stated in Article 3, Section 1 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. Who are protected under the Due Process Clause? All persons, whether citizens or aliens, without regard to any differences of race, religion, color, or nationality, are protected under the Due Process Clause. Private corporations legally existing within the Philippines are persons within the scope of the guarantee insofar as their property is concerned. When we say no person shall be deprived of life, what does the word life means? The right to life is not merely a right to the preservation of life, but also to the security of the limbs and organs of the human body against any unlawful harm. This constitutional guarantee includes the right of an individual to pursue a lawful calling or occupation, to express, write, or even paint his ideas for as long as he does not unlawfully transgress the rights of others, to exercise his freedom of choice, whether this is in the area of politics, religion, marriage, philosophy, and employment, or even in the planning of his family, and in general, to do and perform any lawful act or activity which, in his judgment, will make his life worth living. How about the word liberty? Liberty includes not only the right of a citizen to be free from the mere physical restraint of his person, as by incarceration, but the term is deemed to embrace the right of the citizen to be free in the engagement of all his faculties, or to be free to use them in all lawful ways. Lastly, what properties are included in the Due Process Clause? Property refers to things which are susceptible of appropriation, and which are already possessed and found in the possession of man. What is the purpose of the Due Process Clause? The Due Process Clause is a guarantee against any kind of abuse and arbitrariness by anyone in any of the branches of the government. More specifically, the purpose of the Due Process Clause is to 1. Prevent undue encroachment against the life, liberty, and property of individuals. 2. Secure the individual from the arbitrary exercise of powers of the government, unrestrained by the established principles of private rights and distributive justice. 3. Protect property from confiscation by legislative enactments from seizure, forfeiture, and destruction without a trial and conviction by the ordinary modes of judicial procedures. There are two components of due process. 1. Substantive due process, and 2. Procedural due process. Substantive due process. Substantive due process is a principle allowing courts to protect certain fundamental rights from government interference. Substantive due process demarcates the line between the acts that courts hold to be subject to government regulation or legislation and the acts that courts place beyond the reach of governmental interference. It requires the intrinsic validity of the law in interfering with the rights of the person to his life, liberty, or property. This serves as a restriction on the government's law and rulemaking powers. If a law is invoked to take away one's life, liberty, or property, the more specific concern of substantive due process is not to find out whether said law is being enforced in accordance with procedural formalities, but whether the said law is a proper exercise of legislative power. Take note that publication of laws is part of substantive due process. It is a rule of law that before a person may be bound by law, he must be officially and specifically informed of its contents. Example of substantive due process. An employee's right not to be dismissed without just or authorized cause as provided by law is covered by his right to substantive due process. Bago mo tanggalin ang isang empleyado sa kanyang trabaho, dapat may valid kang rason, at ang rason na yon, ayon sa batas, ay pwedeng dahilan para tanggalin mo siya sa kanyang trabaho. Procedural due process. Procedural due process refers to the regular methods of procedure to be observed before one's life, liberty, or property can be taken away from him. Simply stated, it means that the procedure to be observed must be fair. It is a guarantee to obtain a fair trial in a court of justice according to the mode of proceeding applicable to each case. This includes not only courts of justice, but also any and all administrative bodies, boards, or tribunals. The fundamental elements of procedural due process are as follows. First, there must be a notice. Second, after notice, opportunity to be heard. And third, impartial and competent tribunal or court. True to the mandate of due process clause, the basic rights of notice and hearing pervade not only in criminal and civil proceedings, but in administrative proceedings as well. Non-observance of these rights will invalidate the proceedings. Substantive due process refers to what should be done, while procedural due process concerns how it should be done. Halimbawa, kung tatanggalin mo ang isang empleyado sa kanyang trabaho, kailangan mo siyang i-inform na tatanggalin mo siya at ang rason kung bakit mo siya tatanggalin. After mo siyang ma-inform, bigyan mo siya ng pagkakataon upang idepensa ang kanyang sarili. Effect when due process is not observed. The cardinal precept is that where there is a violation of basic constitutional rights, courts are ousted from their jurisdiction. The violation of a party's right to due process raises a serious jurisdictional issue which cannot be glossed over or disregarded at will. To end, please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more videos.